While your parents were planning their future, there was someone in the room who already knew theirs. Silent, clear, unwavering. And psychologists have been studying them for decades. But what they discovered isn't what society expected. You probably know someone. While everyone was attending baby showers and picking out nurseries, they were somewhere else. Maybe investing in their career. Maybe traveling. Maybe just living a life that didn't require another person to complete it. These are the voluntarily childless, and their decision might reveal something profound about identity, freedom, and what we actually want from life. Stay with me because what we're about to uncover challenges everything we think we know about fulfillment. Here's the thing. For most of history, the choice to have children wasn't really a choice. Biology was destiny. Culture was law. You grew up, you partnered, you reproduced. That was the script, the only script. But something shifted. For the first time in human history, millions of people have reached adulthood with genuine, consequence-free options. They can choose to have children, or they can choose not to. And that choice, that simple decision, has become psychologically fascinating. When society tells you that you need children to be complete, what's your first instinct if you're someone who doesn't want them? It's to recognize something fundamental. You don't feel incomplete. Psychologists have a name for this gap between social expectation and internal reality. It's called role incongruence. And it's not just disagreement. It's the psychological experience of being told who you should be, while being absolutely certain you're someone else. Think about the pressure. The questions that start arriving around age 25. When are you getting married? When are you having kids? Don't you want a family? When are you having grandchildren? For people who don't want children, these aren't just casual questions. They're systematic reminders that something is wrong with them. But here's what neuroscience actually shows us. Their brains might be wired to prioritize different sources of meaning. Research in personality psychology has identified what's called openness to experience, a trait that predicts whether people are satisfied with unconventional life paths. People high in openness tend to value novelty, creative expression, and self-directed goals. They're more comfortable with ambiguity. They're more likely to pursue unusual careers, move to different places, explore different philosophies. And surprise, surprise, they're significantly more likely to be childless by choice. It's not rebellion, it's alignment. Their brain is literally wired to find fulfillment in different ways than the traditional path offers. But there's more. Scientists have discovered something called the Parenthood happiness paradox. This is where it gets uncomfortable for everyone. Study after study shows that parents, on average, report lower life satisfaction, more stress, less couple satisfaction, and higher rates of depression than their childless peers. Wait. Before every parent reading this gets defensive, here's the nuance that usually gets buried. When researchers dig deeper, they find that parents report their children as a source of profound meaning and purpose. So what's happening? It's not that parenthood is objectively worse. It's that the daily experience of parenthood is more difficult, more exhausting, and more stressful. But the meaning it provides can feel worth that cost. For childless people, they're not losing out on meaning. They're getting it from somewhere else. This is where we need to separate the different types of childless people. Because not everyone who doesn't have kids is there for the same reason. Type 1, the child-free. These people made an active choice. By their mid-20s, they knew. Kids weren't for them. They didn't waver. They didn't later regret. They optimized their life around other priorities. Type 2, the childless by circumstance. These are people who wanted children, but timing, health, finances, or relationships made it impossible. This is a different psychological experience entirely. It often involves grief, not relief. Type 3. The ambivalent. They're not sure. They're still figuring it out. Maybe they'll have kids someday. Maybe they won't. They're genuinely comfortable with either outcome. Psychologists have found that true child-free people, the ones who know they don't want children, have fundamentally different motivations than people who want kids, but haven't had them yet. The psychological difference runs deep. Child-free people have what researchers call a coherent identity independent of parenthood. When you ask them what brings them joy, what gives their life meaning, what they want to accomplish, parenthood doesn't appear. It's not because they're rejecting it. It's because when they imagine their future, their best self, it simply doesn't include children. It's absent, not opposed. This is crucial because it separates them from contrarians who might reject parenthood specifically because it's expected. True child-free people would probably feel the same way, even if society celebrated childlessness and mocked parenthood. If everyone suddenly stopped expecting them to have kids, would they still not want them? If the answer is yes, they're authentic. If the answer is no, they've been performing rebellion this whole time. Now here's where evolutionary psychology gets interesting. For 99.9% of human existence, having children was essential for survival. Those genes, those instincts, that drive to reproduce, they shaped us. But something strange happened. We created contraception. We created economic systems where having children became optional but expensive. We created societies where women could work and support themselves. And suddenly, for the first time, reproductive drive became decoupled from reproductive necessity. Some people still feel that drive intensely. Their biology screams for parenthood. Others don't. Their neurobiology is apparently wired differently. There's emerging research on the role of oxytocin, dopamine, and vasopressin in bonding. Some people might have receptor configurations that make parental bonding feel less essential or less rewarding than other types of connection. Your brain might light up more at a party with friends than at a moment with a child. That's not dysfunction. That's just how your neurotransmitters work. But here's the uncomfortable question society never asks. Why do we think everyone should want the same thing? Imagine if we told people, you know what, most humans will find fulfillment through romantic partnership, but some won't. Some will find it through achievement, through art, through friendship, through solitude, through nature, through work, through spirituality, through community. Let's make space for all of these. We wouldn't be shocked. But say the same thing about parenthood and suddenly it's controversial. This reveals something about how deeply parenting is tied to our concept of adulthood, maturity, and success. A 35-year-old childless person is still sometimes treated as perpetually incomplete, despite being accomplished in every other way. A childless person who's devoted their life to art, science, business, or service is told they're missing out. But missing out on what exactly? Sleepless nights? Financial strain? Reduced autonomy? Or is it the profound experience of loving another person unconditionally? For most parents, it's the latter. For most child-free people, that unconditional love shows up in other places. Their creative work, their friendships, their partners, their communities. Research on life satisfaction shows something that might surprise you. Child-free people don't show lower life satisfaction than parents. In fact, in several large studies, they show comparable or sometimes higher satisfaction, though this varies by country, culture, and individual circumstances. What changes isn't satisfaction. It's meaning structure. Parents find their life heavily organized around their children. It provides structure. It provides clear priorities. It answers the question, what should I be doing with my time? With obvious answers. For child-free people, that structure doesn't appear automatically. you have to build it. You have to figure out what you want without the default narrative doing it for you. This is harder and also potentially more authentic. But here's where we encounter the hipster paradox again. Being child-free has become increasingly trendy, especially in urban areas. So now there are people who are child-free because they genuinely don't want children, and people who are child-free because not having children has become a marker of sophistication, independence, or coolness. When you hear someone say, "I'm not having kids because I love my freedom too much," are they expressing their authentic self, or have they adopted an identity that feels more contemporary? The honest answer is probably both. Like with trends, there's usually a layer of genuine motivation underneath, but also a layer of social performance. Someone might genuinely not want children and be enjoying the social status that comes with being someone interesting who doesn't follow the standard script. That doesn't make their choice inauthentic. It just means, like all human choices, it's complicated. It's influenced by both internal preference and external social signals. The trouble starts when either side judges the other. When people with children mock child-free people as selfish, immature, or unfulfilled. When child-free people mock parents as having lost themselves, as being slaves to convention. Because here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Both paths require sacrifice. Parents sacrifice autonomy, spontaneity, time, energy, and sometimes career advancement. Child-free people sacrifice certain experiences, certain types of connection, and they live in a world that's not quite designed for them. Neither sacrifice is more noble. Neither sacrifice is obviously worth it. It depends entirely on what you're trying to get out of life. But there's something even deeper happening psychologically. The intensity with which society insists that parenthood is essential for everyone suggests something vulnerable in our collective belief system. If parenthood was straightforwardly great, we wouldn't need to convince people to do it. If it was obviously the right choice, we wouldn't need to pathologize those who choose differently. The fact that we do suggests that parenthood is actually a massive sacrifice that we've collectively decided is worth it for most people, most of the time. We've invested so much cultural meaning in parenthood, so much of our identity as a species depends on reproduction, that people who opt out trigger something. They're saying, "I don't need this thing that society says is essential for fulfillment." Whether they're right or wrong, that's threatening. It suggests that maybe parenthood isn't essential. Maybe it's just one option. And that's scary for people whose entire meaning-making structure is built around it. The research on regret is fascinating here. Studies tracking people who've chosen not to have children show extremely low rates of regret. Like, remarkably low. Most people who knew they didn't want children and didn't have them look back and feel satisfied with their choice. By contrast, rates of parental regret are higher than we usually talk about. Not every parent regrets parenthood, obviously, but the parents who do regret it usually don't change their choice. They just live with it. This suggests something important. People are generally pretty good at knowing what they want when they're actually given space to figure it out without pressure. The child-free people who regret their choice are usually the ones who wanted children but couldn't have them, not the ones who chose to be child-free. So what's the psychological truth? People who don't want children aren't automatically happier or sadder, more fulfilled or empty, better or worse. They're just operating with a different set of priorities. Some of them have brains that don't activate the parental bonding systems the same way. Some of them have developed identities and meaning systems that don't require children. Some of them are genuinely uncomfortable with the loss of autonomy that parenthood requires. Some of them looked at what parenthood involves and made a rational decision that it wasn't for them. Some of them are running from something. Some of them are running toward something else. Most of them are doing some combination of all these things. The real question isn't whether people who don't want kids are right or wrong. The real question is whether we can make space for genuine human diversity in something as fundamental as this choice. Not everyone needs to want the same things. Not everyone's brain is wired to find fulfillment through parenthood. And that's not a tragedy. That's variation. That's the diversity that allows humanity to adapt and evolve. Some people build the future through their children. Some people build it through their work, their art, their service, their ideas. Both matter. Neither is more valuable. The problems only start when we insist that everyone should want the same thing. Here's the uncomfortable truth that applies to everyone. If your desire for children, or your choice not to have them, is entirely reactive to what society expects, you're not free. You're just performing the opposite of the script. True freedom isn't automatically rejecting parenthood. It's not automatically accepting it either. It's the ability to evaluate your own life independent of social expectations. To want children without needing to defend that choice. To not want children without needing to justify it. To feel at peace with your decision because it actually reflects what you want, not what you've been told to want. The hardest question: if everyone around you suddenly started celebrating childlessness, started treating it as the ultimate expression of self-actualization, would you still not want children? If the answer is yes, you've thought through this clearly. If the answer is no, you're being influenced by social signals more than you realized. But here's the thing, that's not an indictment. Most of us are influenced by social signals about things we believe are deeply personal. The goal isn't to be completely free from social influence. That's impossible. The goal is to be aware of it. To know which parts of your choice are genuinely yours and which parts are reactions to the world around you. The psychology actually tells us this. People who don't want children aren't a different species. They're not broken. They're not incomplete. They're not selfish or shallow or running from responsibility. They're people whose brains, whose personalities, whose values, whose circumstances have aligned in such a way that parenthood doesn't appear in their vision of a good life. For some of them, that's been true since childhood. For others, it became clear in their 20s. For others, it shifted as they got older. It's a process. It's real. And increasingly, it's actually an option. So here's what I want to leave you with. The next time you encounter someone who doesn't want children, instead of trying to convince them otherwise, instead of suggesting they'll change their mind, instead of implying that their life will be empty and meaningless, consider that they might know something about themselves that you don't. They might have genuinely thought about what they want. They might have made a choice that, for them, is right. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to want the same thing. But you might consider that there's no one right way to build a fulfilling life. Some of us do it with children. Some of us do it without. Both are valid. Both are real. And maybe, just maybe, the world needs both kinds of people. Are you child-free by choice? Or do you think you will be? Or are you still figuring it out? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this dive into the psychology of human choice valuable, please subscribe or join the channel for more content that explores what it means to be human in all its weird complexity. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you want to go deeper into how our choices shape our identity, check out our next video where we explore the psychology of life decisions and how much freedom we actually have.